Welcome to Influence Matters, the show that teaches you how to turn your story into impact and your expertise into influence. My name is Clara Rose. I am a literary consultant, a hybrid publisher, and your host for today. Each week, I talk about topics related to crafting your message for the world and building influence for your business, ministry, cause, or brand. Of course, sometimes I do have a special guest. Lots of weeks I have a special guest who's doing something interesting or unique in the world, and I think you might be interested. So I bring them on. And today I do have a special guest for you. She is the founder of Creating Top Producers, which helps entrepreneurs and business leaders master their mindset, so important, boost their productivity, and gain both time and money freedom, which, of course, that appeals to all of us, right? Her journey began when her son manifested a full college scholarship for himself. And so I'm sure we're going to talk about that. And that experience led her to study with Bob Proctor. We all know that name, and to dive deep into the law of attraction and universal success principles. Today, she combines decades of experience in education, leadership training, and personal development to help her clients to break their limiting patterns. We all have those, to align with success and build businesses that support the lifestyle that they truly, truly desire. So please help me welcome Patricia Stepler. Welcome, Patricia.
Hi,
There
Claire. How
you
are
are.
you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for taking time out of your, I'm sure, crazy busy business to be here and share. Right? We're all crazy busy, right? That's
Yeah.
just the
Yes,
way of it.
absolutely.
But thank you so much for being here. Now, I did read your short bio, but tell
Mhm.
us what it is that you really do, because bios always sound so, it's all these accolades and all this fluffy stuff. But when you boil it down, what is it that you really, really do for people?
So I really help people to find the results that they want because so often, we don't get the financial rewards that we think we should, or we don't get the results that we really want. So I am all about getting to somebody's results. And, we do that through building their business, shifting their mindset, getting those habitual habits that are not serving them well and shifting them to habits that will serve them well.
Ah, that's it right there, right? It's
Mhm.
the habits, the daily habits that take us where we're going, right? We might not
Right.
understand how powerful those habits are, but just that every morning you do this or every afternoon you do this. So, when you start working with somebody for the first time, first I should ask, do you work one-on-one with people? Do you do it in a group setting? What does your business model look like?
I do both. In fact, I do kind of a
Okay.
hybrid in that, we do some
Oh,
group work, some individual work.
okay. So
Yeah.
do people usually start in the group and then move to the individual, or do they start as individual? How do you?
Yeah, I usually start as individual to get,
Mhm.
really into what their goal is and what they really want, and then move them into the group. And then, if they need some individual help, I certainly do that.
Okay, interesting. And
Yeah.
then is it a totally online? Is it a totally offline? Is it a hybrid? How do people connect
Mostly
with you
it's
in that way?
online. Yeah, so I
It's
used to do a
online.
lot of,
Okay.
working with clients in person,
Mhm.
and I kept trying to get my clients to be willing to do Zoom and things like that, and they were very resistant until COVID
Yep.
hit, and then they were
Yes.
like, "Oh, well, meeting you on Zoom is kinda
Oh,
like meeting you in person." Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah.
Well, and I remember those days of people being so hesitant to just do it over Zoom when so many
Mhm.
things you really just can do on Zoom, or there's other platforms out there as well. Um, that you could Zoom-ish, right? But people are so resistant to it, and I never really understood that. And then we were forced, right, into it, and we
Mhm.
went, "Oh, okay, this isn't so bad," right?
Yeah,
Now
exactly.
they realize, yes, we can do that. And I would have to say that now my um, probably 95% of my client work is totally done online, right, with Zoom or
Mhm.
whatever. Um, So I think we're not the only ones who've experienced that. I think other businesses if you can, right? Brick and mortar can't do that, of course, but
Right.
when you can do that, what a lovely thing. I actually met somebody yesterday for the first time who I have met on Zoom. And it was like seeing a friend, right? We had a hug, and next week I'm going to go into a retreat where I'm going to, for the very first time, step into a room with somebody who we have done 3 book projects, I think, together. I did started with her, helping her with some strategy work like 5 or 6 years ago. This will be the first time I'll be in the same room with her, but she's like a dear friend. So it's an interesting shift, right? That's
Yes,
happened in our
it is.
worlds for sure. Interesting. Okay, let's get back to talking about what it is that you have to offer people. So they find you online? Do they how do clients get to you?
Yeah, so I find them online. I also, reach out to people and through social media. Um,
Mm,
I speak in summits and, do online
okay.
trainings, things like that. So that's how I usually find my clients.
Okay. And then they just engage with you online.
Yes,
And do you have, is it just a coaching model, or do you also have like courses and things like that
I
that
do
they
have
participate
courses.
in?
Yes. So, and part of what I do, I don't just do mindset. I help people with their branding. If they want to do speaking, I'll help them, get their speech done and, connect that way. If they need help with social media or developing programs, I have a lot of different aspects depending on what their business model is. And then if it's a larger
Sure.
business, I also do disc training and personality
Okay.
training. And also, if they have teams, I use the 5 behaviors of cohesive teams. So I have a lot of different aspects depending on the size of their business and what their goal is and where they see
Mm,
their needs are and where we could best get them the results that they're looking for.
gotcha. So when you're talking about creating top producers, you're talking about the CEOs or the owners, the top of the business structure, or do you ever do any work with people who just work in someone else's business?
Yeah, it could be either way because a lot of
Mm,
CEOs, they probably already feel that they are a top producer. That's why they're the CEO
mm,
or the leader. But they may see people within their teams or in their business that they want to bring up through leadership. And how many times
mm,
does somebody get thrown into a leadership position
mhm.
and have no clue what they're doing? I know that happened to me early on in my education career. I was thrown into this leadership position and I kept thinking, why did you pick me? I'm one of the youngest people on this team. Why would I be the leader of it? And I had zero training. I was just thrown into it.
Mm.
It was like, try to figure it out yourself. And that's so wrong because you can build leaders, but sometimes they need a little support and a little bit of knowledge as to what they need to do to become that leader.
Sure, right? Because 'Cause we're not just born with that. It's not innate or something, right?
Yeah,
And some depending on your personality, some people step into leadership, more easily, for sure.
absolutely.
Um,
Yes.
I'm a total assessment nerd. Like, I love
Mhm.
DISC and predictive index and strengths finders. I mean, I love all of the assessments. I've probably done every assessment on the market because I
Mhm.
find them so fascinating, right? How it
Yeah.
can just ask you some questions and then spit out this information that is so incredibly accurate. When
Yes.
it's like, they're reading my mail. How did they, how did they come up with this? It's crazy
Yeah.
how accurate they are. But it's
It's
also
actually a little
crazy
scary.
how uh, it is a little creepy, isn't it? It's like, how
Yeah.
did this know this about me, right? It's telling you stuff about you that you don't think that other people know, and it's just from asking you a few questions. But I also love that there's such good tools for understanding, right? Better understanding yourself, but really, really powerful in understanding a team, right? When you are in a team environment and everyone like does these assessments, you can go,
Mhm.
oh, my number one is strategic. if you're talking strength finders, that's my number one is strategic. So when I meet other people who that's also their number one and number two, we speak the same language, right?
Right.
We process the same, we think the same, and that is a powerful, powerful tool that you're helping people with to just understand how to interact with their peers or their subordinates or whoever. What an incredible gift for a leader to have access to somebody who can help them navigate those waters. So
Yes,
hugely powerful, I think.
and what I love about the assessments that I utilize is that, it shows you how to work with that other person. In fact, you can, go in and select that person and it will tell you how you need to interact with them. So it's really very helpful for the team. And then you also start to realize, this person thinks a little differently than me, and
Hmm.
building that awareness and understanding. And it's the same way with the 5 behaviors. You actually find out where the strengths and the weaknesses are within your team. Is it a trust issue? Is it an accountability issue?
Hmm.
What is the strengths and the weaknesses of that team so you can correct it and then get to the results.
Right. So the five behaviors, that's one that I haven't heard of. I'm intrigued by it. Um,
It's based on
because
the Yeah, it's
no, go
based on
ahead.
the book by Patrick Lencioni. So it's 5
Oh,
Behaviors of Cohesive Teams. And, so it's
I'm
based
gonna have
on
to
his
read
book
that.
and his research. Yes.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to totally have to read that book, get myself that, because our behaviors, um, we don't necessarily understand. I mean, this is my perception. We don't necessarily recognize our own behaviors um, unless it's pointed out to us, right? And then
Right.
realizing that other people, um, they might be reacting to something that you don't realize you're putting out there.
Exactly.
Right? So having someone to kind of just guide you through that process a little bit. It happened to me like years and years ago, and I sometimes tell this story. I was working in a clinical setting a lot of years ago, and some lady that I was working with had one day my boss brought me into the office and said, this other lady wasn't there because I intimidated her. I mean, she started seeing a therapist because of me. I moved too fast. I spoke too fast. I was just too much, which hurt my feelings, like broke my heart. Right? I'm like, everybody loves me. What are you talking about? But she came back with this book, and like my psychiatrist said, I have to read this because of you. And it was the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it was just her personality was so very different than mine.
Mhm.
Her speed was just like glacial. Right? Everything was very slow and methodical. And I'm like 100 miles an hour with my hair on fire, get out of my way, kind of, right?
Mhm.
Either pick up the pace or move. I'll do it, right? Kind of person. I don't mean to be aggressive or assertive but I didn't realize that about myself until that moment in time where like, oh, right. I didn't realize that I was steamrolling over top of her because she was just in my mind like so incredibly slow and unorganized. And so it was a light bulb moment for me. Thankfully, it happened really early in my adult life, so I could go, "Oh, this is a tendency that I have." Right? I don't mean to be that way, but it's a tendency that I have. So, having a tool like I'm super excited to read this book now. Having a tool that helps you understand other people better just makes it easier to work with people, whether you're in a team setting or I mean, I have a team of my own that I lead, but what a great tool to just understand others better. So, is that like a starting point when you work with people? Do you do any assessments right up front, or is it only as needed?
It really depends on what their needs are.
Mm,
If I'm working with a team, the chances of me working, with the assessments is much greater because at that point we need to understand the different personalities because everybody is a little different. And once you understand how we need there's like 4 basic personalities and how we need all of them to really move a company forward. And so when you start to understand, just like your example with the person you worked with, when you understand that people don't always think like you do or don't react the way you do or respond the way you do, then you can better form that team and you start utilizing the strengths of people to get different parts of a job done.
So true. So true. It's why we surround ourselves with those people that can are their zone of genius is different than ours, right? So we can all we're all better together because there's some things that I'm not great at, right? There's some things that I don't want to do. Like I'd rather crawl through broken glass than do QuickBooks, right? Right? So just knowing that about yourself, right? Knowing, hey, I need someone who they love the spreadsheet, right? They love those things because I don't, right? So making the team better, no matter what size the team is, I think that's super powerful. Okay. I want to give you an opportunity if you, I don't know if you have, I think we did talk about you had a book. Yes? You have a book?
I do have a book. It's mostly a children's book. It's based on my son's
Okay.
life. Yeah.
Okay.
So it goes through a bit of his experience, um, and how he got a college scholarship for himself. And it really started, I think, from the time he was very young. He had some issues. When he was born, he had a collapsed lung. And so that was very scary. And thank goodness we live in a day of modern medicine where he was able to continue to get the oxygen to his brain that he needed and so on. And then he had two lazy eyes. One's bad enough, but he had two. And then he had juvenile diabetes. He was diagnosed with that when he was almost 9. And so it just kind of goes through, and yet he had this belief in himself that he could do things and that he could accomplish. And when he was 12, he basically told me that I didn't need to save money for him to go to college because he was going to get a collegiate athlete scholarship. And even though I never told him, I didn't believe it. I never believed it because there were just, 6 more years. And how often do kids change their mind in 6 years?
Mm.
And, and I also knew how incredibly difficult it was to get a scholarship. And now you've added in an insulin dependent diabetic into the mix too. So it made it even more difficult. But he just kept believing it, and I let him believe that little fantasy. And even when the school that he went to told him he could expect maybe a third to half, I was just shocked when he got the full scholarship. And that sent me on my own journey because I had to figure out how he did it. Like I was doing personal development my entire life, but how did he accomplish this at such a young age? And I had to figure it out. And that led me to Bob Proctor, who, when I first saw him on a video, I was like, this man knows the answers to the questions I have.
Interesting. Yeah, there is something really powerful about belief, right?
There
There
is.
that belief component for sure. Of course, for me in my life as a faith-based person, you know, to me that's God, right? That's God and the Holy
Right.
Spirit, and that's right. That's what that's about. I'm very much less, universal woo-woo kind of person, but there is something to believe the belief factor, right? Just standing in faith and believing that I'm going to do this, and however that comes about. I've just seen it too many times to poo-poo it or discount, right? That there's something to that standing in faith. So I love that you wrote a book about this. So what ages are the book for?
It's mostly for middle school age children.
Middle school?
Yeah.
Perfect. I love that. Such an impressionable age. So you don't have a book beyond just that book? You don't have another
That's the only
book?
book I've written so far. Yes. I
Okay,
have
because I see
programs.
on
I
the
have
wall
other
behind
books that I
you.
want to. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I see on the wall behind you that's something that
Mhm.
has your name at the bottom. And so I thought
Yes. Your
that looks
dream
a bit
power.
like a book cover because your name's at the bottom. So I just wanted to make sure you didn't there was another book that we needed to talk about.
That is my future book, and that is actually a program I have
Okay.
called Amazing Me, where we're talking about,
Oh, I
you
love
know,
that.
how every person is amazing in their own realm, and we have to
Mhm,
bring out those qualities because so often we we live with ourselves, and so we don't think
mhm,
that the things that we have special about ourselves are special
mhm,
because we've just they're always around us. And then we look at
mm,
other people that are doing something that maybe we'd like to do or something we think is amazing, and we, you know, put them on a pedestal because they've
mm,
done something that we don't think we can do. And so it's more about, okay, let's find those things that make you amazing and let you realize
mm,
that because that will build your self-image. And when you build your
mm,
self-image to a certain point, then you realize that you can become unstoppable.
mm. I love that. Amazing Me, huh? I'm gonna be
Yeah.
watching for that book to come out. Actually, I'm gonna you call me, we'll write that book.
Okay.
Because I think that is hugely powerful. I mean, I see it all the time in the groups I'm in, the masterminds that I'm in the different environments that I'm in. That is a struggle that so many people have to overcome, right? Not believing in their own ability, or feeling that imposter syndrome, right? It's a very real thing that people struggle with trying to overcome, especially women for some reason. I'm sure that it happens for men as well, but so many of my networking things happen with women. So that's where I really see it, that women are like, gosh, I just don't know whether I could do that, or yeah, I don't have any special talent or whatever. And I have to say, um, my mother from a very early age said, you can do anything. You could do anything, right? And when anything you set your mind to, you can do it. Now, she may not have thought that she was making some sort of major impact, but my entire adult life, I've always been that, yeah, I could do that, right? Something comes up, I'm like, ooh, that's cool. I could do that. So I've always thought, whether I can or not, I always think, oh, I could do that. And
Mhm.
sometimes I'll do it and I'm like, oh yeah, look. And people are like, how is it that you've had, 20 businesses since you're 18? Well, because I saw it and went, ooh, I could do that. And so I did, right? Because I
Well,
didn't have that voice saying, oh, I don't think I can do that.
and I always believe that, you know, God doesn't give us an idea that we cannot accomplish. And
Mm-hmm,
when we get an idea in our mind, sometimes we'll immediately shut it off and think, "I can't do it," and we'll put all the reasons that seem
mm-hmm,
logical in the way. And what we have to realize is that you've been given that idea. It was a gift.
mm-hmm.
And if you've been
Yep.
given the idea, you have the talents inside of you to accomplish it. You may have to dig and find them. And you may have to
Mm-hmm.
study. You may have to, you know, stretch yourself. But if you have that idea, you also have been given the gifts inside of you to accomplish it.
Absolutely. Plus, all things are possible through him, right? So if he
Absolutely.
planted a seed in you, a desire, a want, um, a dream, then he fully is equipping you to bring
Mhm.
that to pass. So, it's sometimes it's about getting out of your own way. Like, okay, I'm gonna just figure this out, right? This is what I want and this is where I'm headed, and figure it out. I love that mentality. I'm excited for your book to come out. You need to get started on that. I think that the world needs to hear, right? That yes, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. We are these incredible, creative, just like our creator, creative beings that can accomplish amazing things if we'll just give ourselves the opportunity. Why not me? Why not now? Right? If he could do it for her, why can't he do it for me? Right.
Well,
So
and
the
here's
world
here's
needs your story.
you're inspiring me to write that book. But
Yay.
but here's here's the thing that I've noticed in people is sometimes they'll get that idea. And, like, I know 2 different people who have invented something, you know, something
Mm,
useful to society, but then they never took the next step to get it,
mhm.
you know, patented and to get it into
Sure.
production. And you see, when you get that idea, and you don't act on it, or you only act partly on it, God will take
Mhm.
that idea and give it to somebody else. And so
Yeah.
then they'll both these people saw these inventions come out and are like, "Well, I invented that." "Yeah, but you didn't do anything with it."
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I hear it all the time, right? "Ooh, I had that idea." Okay, I've done it myself, actually, mostly because I always have so many ideas, right? They're just like this flood of
Mhm.
ideas. I'm like, ooh, somebody should do that. Ooh, somebody should do that, right? I can't do them all. And then somebody will. And I'm like, yeah, I had that idea, but I
Yeah.
didn't do anything with it. They did. So whatever's burning in you, do it, right? Take a
Mhm.
chance on yourself, step out. Chase a dream. Doesn't matter. I turned 60 this year, but I still feel young, right? Don't let it slow you down. Age doesn't matter, right? Chase your
Yeah.
dream. Okay, so we're almost out of time, but I do want to give you the opportunity if you have something that a place you want to send people. Do you have a free download or some way that you want people to connect with you?
I do have a free download. If you're gonna change
Right?
results, you have to change your thoughts, your
Mhm.
behaviors, and your actions. And it takes all 3 of those. And so I have this download that is called 35,000 dollar months. Now that may be way beyond what somebody can believe, or it may be a little
Mhm.
small. I don't know. But in that's not the point. The point is, if you want to move to a higher level, whether it's a new job, whether it's a business of your own, you need to start moving beyond where you are and to start
Mhm.
going after that dream. So that's my free download. And, you can go to my website, you can find, ways to connect that way also. But, that's just a gift because it's going to tell you the different thoughts, behaviors, and actions you do need in
Mhm.
order to move to that next level, whatever it is.
Whatever that dream is in your world.
Right.
I love that. So they can if so then they'll get on your mailing list if they get the free download,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
they can interact with you more in that way. And then I'm assuming they can find you on social media as well.
Absolutely. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Yes.
Perfect. All the places. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your wisdom with us all. I look forward to, I'm going to check out your kids' book too, because I have produced a few of those. And so that's always fascinating. And I'm going to be watching you to bring out your book. I think that the world needs what you have to say, my friend. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy
Thank
life to
you.
be here. All right, guys. She was amazing, right? Go check her out, Patricia Stepler. Find her on LinkedIn, go to her website, get the freebie if you're thinking, I need some extra guidance to chase after my dreams. Go get that freebie. It's 100% worth swapping your email for um, some free information. Okay. As always, I'd like to end the show by inviting you, if you are ready to take that next step in your business, ministry, cause, or brand, and get your book out of your head and finally out to the world where it can do some good. We have our next cohort starting September 17th. This is a small group that's going to work for 4 months together to get your book from idea to a finished manuscript that is ready for a final edit and ready for publishing. We meet once a week on Zoom. So it can be from any place where you can show up once a week on Zoom. We will get you from start to finish in 4 short months. If your book is a good fit, we'll also offer you the opportunity to publish with Rosedale Publishing if you're interested. All right, I am out of time, friends, but I will see you next week, same time, same place. Take care, my friends.